Hello everyone and welcome to an updated video on Silence Gems. The previous video was made about a year ago, so it is a bit outdated, so I've decided to remake the video completely from scratch. So this mod is mostly about tools. It's kind of like an alternative to Tinker's Construct in a way, even though that wasn't my intention when developing it. With this mod, there are 12 new gemstones that will spawn in your world, and these can be used to craft the different tools by themselves, or the gems can be further upgraded into a higher tier to create even better tools. You can make swords, pickaxes, shovels, axes, hoes, and sickles. These tools do have one particularly interesting property. If you craft them with additional gems, let's see, what should I pick? Maybe some sapphire. And maybe something like that. And there we go. We've completely changed the way the pickaxe looks, but it's still the same pickaxe. It will have the same durability, the same mining speed. It just looks different. One thing to note though, this feature does not work in 1.8. And another thing regarding the decorating of tools, the positioning of the gems relative to the tool itself is what determines what part of the tool gets changed. And you can also add some wool, and that'll add like a little grip onto the handle itself. And really quickly, I'll go ahead and just show off decorating a sword. So we can use the left to change the guard. The top changes the inner part of the sword. The right changes the outer part of the sword. And the bottom changes that little bit on the end of the handle. Same for all of the tools. Alright, let's see how this looks. Not bad. Not the best sword I've ever made, but it'll do. And I suppose I should also point out each gem has its own unique stats, so pick whatever you want based on what you need. For example, maybe you want one that has a high durability, maybe you want high attack damage, maybe you want high mining speed. So what I recommend is creating a tool that has the stats that you need and then decorating it to look however you want it. Using pickaxes, shovels, or axes, we can also right-click to place a block that's in the slot after the tool. And these pickaxes will also work on some materials that a normal pickaxe won't, such as a lever. In addition to the pickaxe having some extra effective materials, a notable one I forgot to mention before was glass. The axe can also cut through leaves very quickly. And it doesn't cost any durability either. For enchantments, you can go a more traditional route and use an enchantment table or books, or you could use these enchantment tokens, which by default now will work on most tools, not just the ones from this particular mod. So I could, for example, give myself a pickaxe of the core from Thaumcraft, and I could craft that with a Silk Touch enchantment token to give it Silk Touch. So now instead of just hoping you get the right enchantment, you can invest the resources you have into getting the enchantments you want. Some of the better ones like Silk Touch and Fortune are of course a bit expensive, but they're well worth it in the end. There are several enchantments you can make with the enchantment tokens. And if you hold shift, it will tell you what tools they can be applied to. There are two enchantments that are unique to this mod. There is Mending and Area Miner. The Area Miner can only be applied to gem tools. So the Mending enchantment, when you apply it to a tool, and you can apply up to 5 levels, it will cause the tool to randomly repair itself occasionally. The Area Miner enchantment will allow you to mine a 3x3 area. The max level of this is currently 1. And this works very similar to how Tinker's Construct hammers work. So I did lose some mining speed because of this, but I could get some back by putting efficiency on the pickaxe. Now for one of my favorite tools, the Torch Bandolier. This, as it says in the tooltip, stores a very large amount of torches. It will consume any torches that are in your inventory, and you can right-click to place them. It only works with vanilla torches, though. And although the Torch Bandolier is not a block, you can also use the placing ability of tools with it. If you don't want the Torch Bandolier to automatically consume torches, say you need some torches for a crafting recipe, you can hold shift and right click in the air, and that will turn off the autofill mode. So now, if I had a torch in my inventory, it would not get consumed. Currently, there's no particularly easy way to get the torches back out. I'm working on that at the moment, but if you do need to, one thing to do is to just hold left and right click. The Torch Bandolier also has a feature where it can be decorated. Since I spawned this one in, it didn't get that decoration, but normally whatever gem you use to craft it would be displayed on the item icon itself. This has no effect whatsoever, it's just for looks. So let's take a look at some of the blocks. I believe I've already shown the ores, which drop the gems that you can use to craft tools. The Chaos Ore is smelted into Chaos Essence, and all of these can be crafted into storage blocks. Next, we've got two different types of bricks, coated and speckled. Coated has a very deep color, and the speckled is more pale, a little less overpowering. I kind of prefer the paler ones, personally. Next, we have lamps. They're both regular and inverted, and they work pretty much like you would expect. The regular ones will only emit light when you power them, and the inverted ones will turn off if you power them. This mod also has some simple teleporters. They're kind of interesting in the fact that they're dumb. They don't really care too much about whether or not the linked teleporter is still there, and the way you do this is you place two teleporters. They don't have to be matching types. They can be different gemstones. And you right-click one with the teleporter linker, and then right-click the other. Now if I right-click on one, it will take me to the other. But as I mentioned before, I can remove one, and it will still send me over there. So you could do some interesting stuff with this. For example, you could create something that's like an elevator, having these embedded into a wall to, for example, say you press the top one and it takes you up a floor and the bottom one takes you down a floor. Related to the teleporters, we have the return home. This is something you can use to get back to wherever you want, anywhere you go. So I can right click it to link it to a teleporter, and just as with the teleporters, the teleporter does not need to remain after you've linked. So if I hold right click and then after a moment or so I release it, it will take me back to where I bound it. Very useful if you get lost somewhere, and it will work across dimensions, so take one with you when you go into the Nether if you get lost all the time like I do. The return home will also only show its coordinates if you're holding the control key. There are also some assorted food items here, which all have some weird effects for the most part. My favorite are the sugar cookies, and I believe these are the only ones I'm going to show. These you can eat even if you're not hungry, but why would you want to do that? Well, they give you 30 seconds of speed and haste. Very useful early on when you don't have very good tools and it takes a while to mine. In addition to the two main tiers of tools, there is one more that I almost forgot, the fish tools. These are mostly just gag items. They're pretty much worthless for actual gameplay. They're maybe as good as a wooden tool at best. But how many mods let you have a sword that is a fish? And the last useful items we have are the Chaos Gems. These are sort of like reusable potions with a cooldown. So I'll go ahead and give myself one, and there's also the Super Cheaty Chaos Gem, which is useful if you're messing around in a creative world because it has infinite charge. So to give the Chaos Gems effects, we need to craft them with the Chaos Runes. These will affect how quickly they drain your charge. And these mostly correspond to potion effects. There is the Flight, which gives you creative style flight. It's a little bit funny at times, but it works fairly well. It does drain the charge very quickly, though. So let's see if we can come up with something useful here. Maybe we want to go fight a Wither or something, and we want a Chaos Gem that'll give us a bit of extra strength. And maybe we want some regen, too. So let's see. We can put up the 2 levels of regeneration to give us regen 2. And we now have those potion effects when it's turned on. And once we turn it off, the potion effects are immediately gone. So let's see, what else could we put on it? There are 2 unique Chaos Runes here. There's Capacity and Boost, which improve the maximum charge and the recharge rate, respectively. So, for example, we could put some capacity upgrades on here to allow it to hold extra charge. But if I try to put something else on, it won't let me. That's because by default you can only have 3 effects on one Chaos Gem, so be sure to plan out what you're going to do with a Chaos Gem, as they are fairly expensive items. And last, I've got some plant blocks over here. We've got glow roses. These are flowers that will spawn in the world, and they emit a very small amount of light, not too much. Let's go ahead and switch to midnight, and you can see we are lit up a little bit here. It's a fairly small radius, but it could be useful for decorating something that you can't really put any lights around, like say you have a garden that you're building. These could be used to light it up without having any torches or obvious light blocks. And finally, we've got the Fluffy Puffs. I hate that name more and more every time I say it, but these are incredibly useful. So with these, what can we do? Well, we can plant them to grow the plants, or we can craft wool, feathers, some fairly weak cotton armor, and string. Feathers being one of the most notable ones, since there are very few ways to craft feathers in modded that I am aware of. Oh, and there are 2 more small items here, which are mostly just a convenience. We've got the Summon Kitty, which, when used, will give you a tamed cat that belongs to you. And the Summon Puppy, similarly, will give you a tamed wolf. And these items are nice because it can be a bit hard to find ocelots and wolves in modded worlds. There are just so many other entities that are spawning. And you guys are a bit noisy, I'm going to back off. I should also mention that the ore spawn rates and where they spawn are configurable, but by default you will find the regular gems at level 40 and below, and the Chaos Ore at level 20 and below. The Chaos Ore tends to spawn in fairly large veins, but it's pretty rare as well. And I think that covers everything in this mod. There are some other miscellaneous items you might be able to see here, like there's some crafting ingredients and a couple of dyes, but nothing to really go into detail about. They're exactly what they appear to be. And one last thing, one question I get asked often is how to install this mod. It is a Forge mod, so you will need to install Minecraft Forge. And after you've done that, just drop the jar file for the mod into the mods folder, and you should be good to go. Just make sure you get the right version of Forge and the mod for the version of Minecraft that you're playing. If you would like to see this mod in use in a survival world, I do also have a Let's Play series on my YouTube channel, so go check that out if you're interested. And if you have any questions, comments, things that I forgot to say, or suggestions for the mod. I do have plans for armor, but I don't have any particular ideals of what to do. If you have any suggestions, let me know. And thank you for watching this video.